Shalom and greetings from Jerusalem, Jane, on this very special day. The rain has been coming down most of the day, and it kind of reflects how we feel. But now the sun was peeping through a little bit, hitting the leaves out here on my trees. Today is International Holocaust Memorial Day. It's the work day where the United Nations decided that the international community honor and remember the Holocaust, the victims of the Holocaust, to say never again and to come against anti-Semitism. This day was chosen because it was the day where Auschwitz-Birkenau was liberated by the troops from Russia. 1 year ago, normally I actually try to go to Yad Vashem on this special day, and every year I write about it, I write a blog about it, I make a video and I speak about my impressions and who I met on that specific day. Those of you who have been following me for a long time, you know about that. You have read my blogs and you have seen my videos. Today is Saturday, which means last year Holocaust Day was on a Friday. So I couldn't go to Yad Vashem, but I recorded the video where I just spoke from my heart about this day and what it means and how it's so easy to say never again, but what are we doing about it? And then I left my house. I had to go and do a little bit of shopping, and coming back with the light rail, they passed the stop where I normally get off. And, you know, we passed it and I got off later and had to walk back, and I was like, what's going on? And they said there was a bomb threat. You know, this is Jerusalem, someone has left a bag. So everything was, you know, moved away, and they had to call in to check. And that's just reality. So on Holocaust Day yesterday, you know, you're finding yourself in the midst of a bomb threat. Only a couple of hours later, as Shabbat was coming in and Jewish families were, you know, making their way to the synagogue, a deplorable Hamas terrorist from East Jerusalem got into his car and he drove to Neuve Daniel, which is literally very, very close to me. It's not even 10 minutes away from here. And he got out of his car and he started executing people on the streets, people who were on their way to a synagogue. People who was in the apartment close by heard about it. They got up and they ran to help, and they were executed. In one of the worst terror attacks in Israel, one of the bloodiest with most casualties, 7 people were killed, executed in one night, one Friday night, outside a synagogue in Jerusalem on Holocaust Remembrance Day last year, by a Palestinian affiliated terrorist. That's what happened last year on Holocaust Memorial Day, the day where we say never again, we remembered. And 7 families had to bury their loved one murdered for no other reason than just being Jewish. It was a horrendous evening. I remember the video I made. I couldn't stop crying. Little did we know that later that year, on October 7, Israel was going to experience what a lot of people have said the only way we can describe what happened on October 7 is like another Holocaust, where 3,000 armed to the teeth terrorists breached into Israel and committed the worst atrocities since the Holocaust. When they raped, mutilated, decapitated, burned alive babies, Holocaust survivors, parents, children, gang raped women, shot them in the vagina, jammed knives into their vagina. Some women were found with nails in their vagina. Men's private part was cut off. Women's breast was cut off. The worst atrocities. And like people say, we can only compare it to the Holocaust. And these Nazi Hamas terrorists was live streaming, broadcasting it for the world to see. On that day, more than 240 people was taking hostages into the Gaza Strip, held in Gaza, some of them in tunnels, and some of them, where were they? They were held by innocent civilians in Gaza. They were held by doctors in Gaza, in houses where there were women and children. Why? Because Hamas is in charge inside Gaza, but they are everywhere. Nothing happens in Gaza that Hamas is not in on, that they don't allow. The dictatorship of Hamas and all of the organizations, the United Nations organizations in there, they are completely complicit in all of this. We have seen time and time again that the school books that's being taught in UNRWA are full of hate, of lies, of indictments, of how to murder the Jews, of how to liberate Palestine. It's being revealed again and again. UNRWA teachers are terrorists, and now it came out, Israel has handed proof to governments around the world and say, you know, you support UNRWA with millions of dollars every year, and at least 12 of those were active members of Hamas who took part of the atrocities towards Israel. And now the leaders of United Nations like, oh, we're horrified, like they didn't know. Did you know there's not one United Nations organizations that has labeled Hamas as a terrorist organization? So in Gaza, UNRWA is completely complicit in all of this. Did you know that UNRWA in Gaza has 13,000 teachers, not teachers, but workers? UNRWA has 13,000 workers inside Gaza. That is one UNRWA worker for 114 people. It is completely unheard of. You have never seen that in any other organization or in any other part of the world. It is one huge money milking cow machine where they need the Palestinian refugees to receive hundreds and millions and billions of dollars every month right down into their pockets so they can continue to teach their children how to liberate Palestine and how to murder the Jews. And that is what these teachers are doing. In a closed WhatsApp group, 3,000 of these UNRWA school teachers were glorifying and celebrating the murder of the Jewish people. This is where we are at in 2023. So America, England, Australia, Italy and Finland so far have said we are going to put a temporary stop on all the hundreds of millions of dollars we are giving to UNRWA. We are not going to pay for an organization to have terrorists who took part on the atrocities committed towards Israel. So that's where we are at now. UNRWA is just a milking cow where they need all of these refugees so they can receive all of your money while they are deeply, deeply, deeply embedded in Hamas. So 2023 Holocaust Memorial Day, I was just watching on my TV an interview with a Holocaust survivor. She was living in one of the kibbutzes that was brutally assaulted on October 7. 6 of her family members, including her daughter and small grandchildren, were kidnapped into Gaza. Her son were murdered. She heard a knock on her door. She's opening her door, and outside is Hamas terrorists dressed in black with the green headband. She survived. She survived the Holocaust. She survived another Holocaust here in Israel on October 7. We still have 130 plus hostages held inside Gaza. Where is the outcry from the world? Where is the pressure on Hamas? There's not one UNRWA organization who labels Hamas as terrorist organizations. You cannot work as a Red Cross or UNRWA or any of these organizations inside Gaza unless you are completely hand in hand with Hamas. You think they would allow that? Absolutely not. So they don't dare to label Hamas as a terrorist organization, as terrorists, which the rest of the world knows that they are. There should be a pressure on them. If Hamas had surrendered, if Hamas had released the hostages, there wouldn't have been a war. This could have been over in 3 days. But here we are, nobody pressures them. They are pressuring Israel for a ceasefire to show restraint. Go after the one who started this. And what happened yesterday? The International Criminal Court of Justice in Hague, they stood with South Africa in the horrible claims towards Israel about genocide. Who committed a genocide towards Israel on October 7? Hamas. Hamas carried out a genocide. They had weapons, thousands of weapons and rockets with them when they breached into Israel. Their goal was to reach Tel Aviv, to liberate Palestine, to have murdered thousands and thousands of Jews on that Black Saturday, which was Simchat Torah, the end of the Sukkot holiday. They committed the atrocities of genocide towards the Jewish people, and they have said we will do it again, because of course they need to liberate Palestine, which means we need to carry out a genocide towards the Jewish people. But as a victim, Israel was put to the Hague as the one committing a genocide towards the people who don't want peace with Israel, towards a civilian population inside Gaza who is supporting the atrocities towards Israel. Israel is not at war with the civilians. Israel is going after the terrorists inside the Gaza Strip. So that's what happened on the night of Holocaust Memorial Day. It is simply, simply unbelievable. It is so easy to say never again. Never again. I don't need your words. We are looking at your action. Where are your actions around the world? Unbelievable. It has been proven again and again and again and again to the governments around the world that UNRWA is full of hate, full of indictments. The school books, the teaching of liberate Palestine, of murder the Jewish people, and they're like, well, because in Europe they are having a hard time believing that's what's really going on. Well, that is what is really going on. They need to completely pull down UNRWA and find another sort of help for the people who truly need help in Gaza. They are 3/4 generations of refugees since 49 when UNRWA was made. It's the biggest scam in the world history. And who is always paying the price? Israel. The Jewish people. For what? For being Jewish and living in the one only Jewish state, surrounded by how many Muslim countries? How many Arab countries in the world? It's not enough. There is that tiny little nation called Israel. No, it's not enough. Because the diabolically hate towards the Jewish people, that was the reason behind the Holocaust, is very, very much alive today. And that's what we saw full-blown effect on October 7, when Hamas breached into Israel and committed all of these atrocities. And by the way, a lot of the civilians came after Hamas and looted and took part of the raping of the Jewish people, the Israeli women, on October 7. And did you see the cheering in the streets when Israeli hostages were pulled and dragged down the streets with blood soaking in their pants after being gang raped? Who was cheering and spitting at them and cursing at them and beating at them? All the innocent civilians in Gaza. It is unbelievable that the world is not awake to this. So that's where we are at 2023 on International Holocaust Memorial Day. I will always stand with Israel. My hair is out of control. I will always stand with Israel for such a time as this. I have been at Yad Vashem so many times and look at the horrendous photos of the gruesome torture and experiments they did on the Jewish people, the gas chambers. It's unbelievable. Down through history, how many times have there been genocide towards the Jewish people? And now they are home in their God-given homelands and they're being accused of genocides. It is absolutely outrageous. So for such a time as this, we stand with Israel. We stand united with Israel. Be a watchman on the wall wherever you are on this Holocaust Memorial Day. Speak out against the government in your country. If you see your government continues to fund UNRWA, contact them, write, email, send letters to your government and say enough is enough. And I'm so grateful when I see all the people who is doing the pro-Israel rallies around the world, because we sure see the other side. So get out, get active, go out in the streets with the Israeli flag like we saw in Norway, we have seen in Finland, we have seen in Denmark and in London and all of these places in America. We want to see it in many more countries. for such a time as this. May God bless Israel, his own people. This is about Israel. I've said it many times. God and Israel are like this. You cannot separate Israel. When it comes to Israel, it's about God. This is a battle between good and evil, light and darkness. That's the only way you can describe it. So choose to be on the blessing team. But God says, I will bless those that bless Israel, and I will curse those that curse Israel. And that's what we see and what we have seen down through history. So for all of you amazing people around the world who are standing with Israel for such a time as this, I love you. May God bless you. May you be blessed in all that you do on this Holocaust Memorial Day. Bye. God bless you.